If you don't know who you are, you will look to other people to tell you. The less you approve of yourself, the more you will crave the approval of everyone else. By the end of this video, mate, the only person that you are going to seek the approval of is the one person who matters the most. And that is you and your approval. Because today, mate, I'm going to help you bust that curse of neediness and validation seeking, validation addiction, so that you can be calm, confident, authentic, and relaxed in any social situation or relationship. But as always, there's no wishy-washy bullshit here, man, because I'm going to break down for you the whole way of dealing with this and doing this in a 3-step process that heals this validation addiction and approval addiction, approval seeking at the root cause. And that's towards the end of the video. But if we've never met before, mate, my name is Oliver. I'm a coach, I'm a writer, and I'm a retreat facilitator. I've got over 4 years of experience, and on this channel, I help you become a confident and independent man. So here's the thing about approval seeking. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that you've been hit in the gym. And if you can't imagine that, then you should fix that. Imagine you've been hit in the gym 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and you've not had a shower. You're walking around now in public, unshowered, sweaty. You've not washed your clothes, let's say that as well. And you have this funk that's repelling people from you. They're avoiding you like the filthy bastard that you are. I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. But honestly, that's what neediness does. Neediness gives you this kind of invisible, repellent stench that people genuinely find repulsive. Or, actually I should mention this, sometimes neediness attracts other needy people who are deeply insecure as well. And then instead of healing and growing and moving past it, you just end up in this codependent relationship where neither of you are healing, you're just sort of wallowing in this insecure, mucky mess that you both created. That happens all the time. The truth is that needy men know, or we all know this really, that people are attracted to confidence, to conviction, to people who have a sense of who they are, what they're here to do. They're walking this journey in life and they're enjoying the process and they're truly at peace with who they are. We're attracted naturally to people like that. I call people like let's say you're a man like that, you are now, and you're an independent man. And it's also that if you're like that, people relax around you. So when you're calm and you're at peace with who you are, other people feel that from you, and it's almost like it gives them permission to feel calm and at peace with who they are. And that is an extremely addictive feeling. So if you're an independent, confident man who's at peace with who he is, you'll find that you are attracting people and opportunities to you almost by default because of who you are. Now, if you contrast all of that with a needy man doesn't know who he is, so he's looking to other people to validate him and tell him who he is. A needy man is not able to regulate and soothe his own emotions. So it's like he ends up placing unconscious demands on the people around him to regulate his nervous system and regulate his own emotions and tell him who he is. This is extremely draining. A lot of people like this who are needy, another word for it is energy vampire, because it's as if when you're around people like that, you find yourself tired and exhausted from the interaction. Maybe you've been around people like this, and maybe, mate, let's get uncomfortable, maybe you are this now. Maybe you are a needy man now. Maybe you can resonate with this a little bit too much. And if that's the case, man, I admire your honesty. I really do. And the worst part, mate, you probably know what you're doing. But it's like you know what you're doing logically, but you can't fix the problem. So why does this neediness happen? Well, there's 3 core drivers for neediness and approval-seeking behavior. And I'm going to dive into each of the 3 drivers and give you a little tip as to how to change it. This is kind of the process that we're going to go through. The first driver is a lack of self-approval. So here's a tip that my therapist gave me, a therapist of a few, gave me years ago. Practice self-approval. My therapist realized that I had no self-approval when I was basically, like she'd noticed in a session that I was deferring authority to everybody else but myself. So in the session, she kind of interrupted me and asked me what I thought. She was like, Oliver, what do you think about that flower pot? And I was really confused by that. And I was like, I don't know. But then she sat there for a while in the silence, and I realized in that moment, I actually don't have an opinion about that. But then I realized something else, which is that I don't actually have an opinion about many things. So she was saying, practice self-approval. Ask yourself what you feel, what you think. what you want. If you get into the habit of seeking self-approval in a variety of situations, this alone, mate, this alone has the power to completely change your life. The second driver is a fear of confrontation. If you and I are honest, you probably are afraid a little bit, at least, of confrontation. You're afraid of saying no, you're afraid of upsetting people, you're afraid of rocking the boat. But the problem is with this, mate, is your fear of confrontation is making you inauthentic, it's pushing people away, it's making people trust you less, it's having a negative impact overall, big picture. Once you've started practicing self-approval, as in the previous step, you'll start to realize ways in which you abdicate your own truth. So here's where you start to realize, oh my God, I'm agreeing with everything I don't agree with, I'm saying yes to things I don't want to say yes to. When you start to have a bit of a roadmap, then you can start to take it small steps, and start saying no to stuff. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, mate. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But you absolutely need to start doing this if you want to be more authentic and start seeking your own approval. And after a while, you'll realize that when you say no and set a boundary, over time that becomes addictive. You start feeling this sense of relief when you actually start saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And you're like, oh, I chose myself in that moment. That felt amazing. And the third driver, and probably the most fundamental driver, is that you have an underdeveloped core sense of self. Now let me tell you what I mean by that. An independent man has a strong sense of principles, values, and standards. A needy man doesn't have any of those things. He doesn't really have any internal boundaries whatsoever. When I say seek self-approval, you can't approve of something that you don't know what it is. If you don't actually have a core sense of self to approve of, then that advice doesn't really mean anything. So one thing you can start doing, man, is start to create a list of your personal standards, principles and values. It's a big exercise really, but one thing you can start doing is just start writing down sentences that embody your personal standards for what you will tolerate and won't tolerate in your social life. So for example, one principle I have is that I will honestly speak my truth regardless of whether it upsets anybody. So that standard is in my Notion document. It's in my Notion workspace. It's something I repeat to myself every now and then. It reminds me that I value my own truth more than I value approval of other people. And until you have these kind of things as standards, then you will naturally take the line of least resistance and defer authority to other people's approval first. Developing your own set of standards and principles and values is one of the things that I work on first. It's one of the first things that I take a client through in my Pleaser to Leader program. So if you're interested in going through the program yourself and becoming instead of being a people pleaser, you become a confident, powerful leader in your life. If you're interested in that, click the link in the pinned comment down below. But if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, it's this. You do not need the approval of anybody else but you. And the moment you start to seek your own approval more than you value and seek the approval of other people, that's the moment that you have won the freedom to be yourself. Thanks for watching, mate. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.